Welcome to the Sports Bros Podcast, featuring the Almighty B-Live, the Money Man, Scotty D, and your host, the head of creative, Eddie Cool. And without any further ado, here they are, the Sports Bros. What's going on, world? This be your boy, Eddie Cool, a.k.a. the HOC, the head of creative here at the Sports Bros Podcast, and welcome to episode number 34 of the Sports Bros Podcast. Man, 34 of them things in the books and another 11 more to come because we're here now. And as always, I'm joined by both of my co-hosts last week. Of course, you know, B-Live couldn't be with us because he's a working man. He was tired. You know, he had to get his rest, get his mind, and get himself back together. Nothing wrong with that. And of course, we got the almighty B-Live.
Man, it's good to be back. I know you missed me. Let's see what had happened was starting the morning off with a lie.
Maybe a lie already.
I'm not even gonna lie to you. I just completely overslept. But I got two of the best in the business right now that held it down for me. But you know what? I know you missed me. I'm gonna go ahead and get this out of the way because I ain't got no good sense. Just by default, since the Jets beat the Cowboys and the Dolphins beat the Jets, that means the Dolphins are better than the Cowboys. Is that how math works? Is that how we do things?
And
yes.
As always,
yes.
And as always, we got the one, the only, the Money Man, Scotty D.
It is good to be back at full strength. 1, 2, and 3. We're all here, all three stooges, ready to rock and roll this week. It is November. Can you guys believe we're doing this in November already? And it is Sagittarius season, and one of the Sports Bros has a birthday coming up this week. Not me.
I'm a Scorpio.
It's still Sagittarius season coming up here.
You know what? See, why you want to be difficult? Anyway.
Because I am a Sagittarius.
Hey, Sagittarius.
So we got a Scorpio birthday this week then. Eddie Cool?
Oh, yeah, that's me. I will be turning 37 years old.
Okay, as you notice, ladies and gentlemen, that dead space was not for editing. That was because Eddie Cool's mind is getting up in age, and he forgot how old he was. Just want to go throw that out there.
Don't worry about it. I'll be applying for Social Security as soon as the show ends.
Well, happy birthday, Eddie Cool.
Absolutely. Well, November 8th, correct?
Yes, November 8th.
Yes. So, and don't worry, Uncle Max, just because of what just happened right there, the old jokes are no longer going to be just exclusively for you. All right. Love you, Unc.
Wow.
I've been gone for 2 weeks. I had to throw one in there.
Yeah, you had to. You
I had to do it, but I'm here. I digress.
You had to do it by law and you had no other choice. All right, we're gonna kick off with the World Series final recap. Game 7, winner takes all. It came to you from Houston, Texas, and I'm not gonna lie, I was wrong. As the Washington Nationals defeat the Houston Astros 4-3 to win the World Series, and Steven Strasburg was named the MVP. Fellas, here's an interesting stat. I don't know if you noticed, but in this World Series, the home team did not win a single game. All the games were won by the road team.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Can you imagine being a fan of these respective teams, paying whatever thousands of dollars you paid to see your team at home, and they lost every single game?
Yeah,
I think it's probably easier for Nationals fans to deal with at this point, I would say.
Just a little bit.
Yeah.
I know a good friend of mine because actually here in Fayetteville, our minor league team, the Fayetteville Woodpeckers, is a Houston Astros affiliate. So they're actually employed by the Astros, and they actually a few people I know actually got to attend Game 7 of the World Series in Houston, and disappointment. Paul Odom, I'm talking to you. It is your fault that the Houston Astros did not win the World Series. Because just saying, I'm throwing it out there. Guess what? I have my own podcast. I get to do things like this. The other two guys, they won't kick me off just yet. I guess if I got to make sure I wake up in the morning.
So you got to do get up in the morning. That's all you got to do. Fellas, what did you think about this What did you think about this series between the Nationals and the Astros?
I was right.
Yeah.
Nationals and some. No, honestly, I will say this. This was a tale for the ages. Like the pitching battles across the board. Like the cat and mouse game that was played. One thing that I did not like was the fact that Astros pulled their pitcher after one hit. He had one hit in Game 7. They pulled him. Yeah. I did not understand that at all. And Garrett Cole didn't even see the mound. That's ridiculous. Game 7, all bets are off. And Coach Skipper wants to say, oh, we were just going to enter him in the game if we were winning to save at the end. No, put him in whenever. Because you got to stop the bleeding because
you left the bullet in the chamber there.
Yep. Right. So, but that was a misstep. But I mean, at the end of the day, there's so much chess when it comes to so many moving pieces when it comes to especially Game 7, everything on the line. It was an amazing series to watch. I'm thankful that it went 7 games. It was the two best teams in baseball, period.
Yep.
Yeah, I agree. I think at the end of the season, the two best teams were playing for it. I mentioned to you guys before I talked to Reggie Sanders, former baseball player. Reggie Sanders actually played in a World Series Game 7 2 years in a row. He played in 2001 for the Diamondbacks and 2002 for the Giants, winning one and losing one. So I asked him about this Zach Greinke pull the other day because it bothered me. I thought, like you, B-Lab, that they pulled Greinke too soon. You know, he gives up a home run. It's 2-1. And I can't remember if he gave up a hit or a walk, but he left with a man on base. And I thought that, personally, I thought Greinke has earned the right to try to fight his way out of that. He was pitching a good game. He's a Cy Young winner. Reggie, as a former player, said, well, you never know what he could have been going through if he had some fatigue or some physical issues that he was fighting through that only the manager knew about. You know, he made a lot of sense. He shed a little bit of light on that. But he also mentioned not putting in Garrett Cole. And I heard Smoltz and Bucket talking about it, saying they didn't want to put him in unless it was a clean inning. They didn't want to bring Garrett Cole in a situation where somebody was on base. And to that I say, come on, man. The dude's a professional pitcher. He's never pitched from the stretch before. He's never pitched with a – he's a pro, and he's your best pitcher. You got to get him in. You can't have your best pitcher – watching from the bullpen as you go down in flames. I didn't like that, and that's kind of what Reggie said too. But I tell you, guys, I think the biggest at bat of the game, and I didn't hear a lot talked about it, but the following inning, the Astros had men on first and third with, I believe, 1 out, and Altuve's at the plate. Now, if you're an Astros fan, who would you rather have at the plate with a runner on third base and less than 2 outs? Than Jose Altuve, maybe Springer in the World Series. Mm-hmm. Altuve struck out. I would have bet anything that Altuve, at the very least, hits a sac fly or a ground ball to the right side to get that tying run home. And it didn't happen, and they never came back. They never tied it or took the lead again. That was essentially what I felt was the end of the ball game right there. I think it took the wind out of the Astros' sails, and they just never got it back. But congrats to the Nationals, man. It was an exciting World Series in that it went 7 games, but the games were not as dramatic as I was expecting them to be. As far as I felt like every game, it seemed like late in the 6th, 7th, 8th inning, one of the teams would break the game open and essentially put it away. You didn't have a whole lot of 9th inning drama.
No,
you know? But yeah, it was a great World Series nonetheless, and I didn't really have a dog in the fight, so I'm happy for the Nationals. So there you
Yep.
go.
Yep. They also, excuse me, the Astros, I think at one point during the game, they left like 10 men on base. During the entire game, they left like 10 men on base, man. If you got to get those bats clicking, man. If you at least get like 3 or 4 of out those 10, men left on base, it's a whole different story. We're talking about, we possibly could be talking about the Astros being the world champions, but hey,
as
man.
usual, that's usually the story of the postseason is pitching, and you're right, and that's kind of how it went. The Astros couldn't overcome the Nationals pitching, and I tell you, Steven Strasburg winning the MVP. I'm okay with that call. He won half of their games that were necessary. But what I liked was Strasburg going deep. He went into the 9th inning in Game 6.
Yep.
I like leaving the pitcher in that's pitching well. You see too many bullpenning games and openers pitching and relying on 5 or 6 guys to get you through games. And Strasburg he was out of sight in Game 6. And, Dave Martinez left him in the game. He didn't pull him just because he threw X amount of pitches. It was great strategy, and he rode the hot hand, and they deserved to win.
Yep, got to ride that hot hand, man. You have to ride that hot hand when it comes to this situation. When it comes to the World Series, man, do or die, milk or mildew. What you gonna do when the Washington Nationals run wild on you? And also shout out to them for winning their first title in the organization, and that dates back all the way to the days of the Montreal Expo. So, shout out to the Nationals for getting it done and overcoming all of the odds. Moving right along, we got the Week 9 that was in the NFL, and it was a week where the Patriots, they lost, and also Green Bay lost to LA. Shocker. And the biggest surprise, if you want to say that, hey, Rodney, hey, Cliff, your Miami Dolphins get their first win of the season, and Coach Brian Flores experiences his first ever Gatorade Bath. Going over to some of the scores.
Go ahead, Dolphins.
Wait a minute. Hold on. They actually, he got the Gatorade Bath after getting the first win in the. You know what? I'm not going to do it. I'm going to let them enjoy their time because that's silly to me. This is a professional sports. I can see that in college maybe, but come on, you're celebrating being 1-8 or 1-7 or whatever.
It's a milestone. It's his first win.
Nobody gives a. Ooh, yes, sir.
Sorry that Dabo didn't get a Gatorade Bath for knocking off Mighty Wofford this week, but we'll get to that later.
Wow.
We'll get to that later.
You know what? I'm gonna start screenshotting things because you're the same person that said that who is we talking about if we hold on to this 42-point lead. Now you want to get on the air and switch it up. Okay, who is we?
I was nervous about our Clemson Tigers.
There he goes. Jeez.
Hashtag who
is we. Anyway, Amtrak.
So going on some of the scores from our Week 9, that means the San Francisco 49ers are the only undefeated team in the National Football League. They win against the Cardinals. The Eagles defeat the Bears. The Bills defeat the Redskins. The Carolina Panthers and all-world Christian McCaffrey defeat the Titans. The Raiders, guess what? They are 500 at 4-4 as they defeat the Detroit Lions. The Seahawks need some help in overtime to defeat the Bucks. The Chargers, shocker. Ooh, that's shocker. Chargers.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah, they defeat the Green Bay Packers and only held them to 11 points. The Broncos, they also defeat the Cleveland Browns. Kansas City ekes one out against the Vikings. As we mentioned, the Dolphins, they get their first win of the season. And the Ravens defeat the Patriots on Sunday night, 37-20. B-Live, you were live at the Carolina Panthers and the Tennessee Titans game. Tell us what you saw on the field, man. What you saw about the Carolina Panthers.
If Christian McCaffrey does not win MVP, throw away the entire system. All the voters, everybody, just gut the entire system because Christian McCaffrey is by far the most valuable player to his team. By far. without Christian McCaffrey, the Panthers would be a shell of their former selves. Like, it's one of those things, hey, here's something. Cam Newton won the MVP back in 2015. Guess what? The Panthers don't have Cam Newton ready and available right now. And the Panthers are still winning. So that means not necessarily taking away any value from Cam Newton. Still love Cam Newton. Right now, though, today, this game right here, and throughout the season, Christian McCaffrey is by far the MVP of the National Football League. And if you listen closely to the game, you would have heard me leading the chant for MVP. Run
I heard your
CMC.
voice out there. I thought I heard that.
That's why if you haven't noticed, to all the listeners, that I'm a little hoarse. I'm not sounding like my normal self, because that's where I left my voice at Bank of America Stadium. Loved it, every bit of it. Yes, sir.
Yeah, man. From what I saw, man, I was like, wow, they look good, man. They really look good, because it looks like that loss against the 49ers, they really were motivated to come out and play some inspired football. So as opposed to having three teams coming out of the NFC South, because we know one team be hitting on nothing. We may have two teams coming out of the NFC South. It's you can kind of just throw it in the air as far as like that whole conference goes, because you don't know who's going to do what, but you can kind of it's kind of like the Saints and then everybody else in the NFC. So all in all, it was a great game.
So whoa. Disrespectful.
What you mean?
So disrespectful. Big Kenny, I do apologize for our lead host antics. He said the Saints and then everybody else. Don't you mean the 49ers and everybody else?
Correction. The Saints, the 49ers, and everybody else.
Okay. I can't just let you go by that, because it's actually pretty easy to do, because there's not one of us, and I'm telling you, not one of us, none of the professional analysts, nobody would have picked the 49ers to be the best team in football right now. Not one. I don't care.
That's right. We're episodic too. Last week, remember, we were saying we thought there was about 7 NFC teams that were contenders, and as opposed to just the Patriots in the AFC.
Yeah.
We're episodic here, Eddie Cool.
Yeah. You're right about that. We're episodic. The longest running episodic. Oh, my bad. I had a Monday Night Raw moment.
And but I think, just a quick shout out, like I said, to Big Kenny, to Marcus Anderson. Those are two diehard 49er fans. And also
Corey Turner too. He loves the 49ers as well too.
And a shout out to my dad. I know he don't listen because he don't know him, and technology ain't there. But my dad, I grew up a 49ers fan because of my dad. But as soon as the Panthers came into town, that was it for me. So, I mean, I am all the way with my Panthers, but I have to give respect to where respect is due to the 49ers. Even though they looked a little sluggish against the Cardinals, but they're still going to be a force to reckon with. That defense is what it is, and Jimmy G outlasts Tom Brady as the last undefeated team. Belichick might have been right.
Yep. And then they had, then they made the move before the trade deadline and got Emmanuel Sanders, and he can pretty much be their number one, because that's the only issue on the 49ers, like a legitimate true number one wide receiver. I mean, you got pieces, but you don't have that one. So that might have been the move. I mean, as subtle as it seems, to put them over the top. So you got the Saints, the 49ers, and everybody else in the NFC. Speaking of episodic, long-running programs, fellas, do you think that Scotty D? Do you think that we overhyped the Browns, because it's been a struggle fest for them, man. It's been a struggle fest for them from Baker blowing up to reporters, and there's more concern about Odell and Jarvis Landry or what they're wearing on their feet versus playing in the game and everything. Like, Scotty D, what in the hell is going on?
Yeah, it's a lot going on there. Coming into the season, how could you not hype them, though? I mean, this is a team that won one game in the previous 2 seasons combined, and last year down the stretch, they got hot. If I'm not mistaken, they're now 2-6,
yep.
And a year ago they were 2-5-1, and they ended up with 7 wins. So they were a formidable team down the stretch last year. So you add in the players that they added in, Odell Beckham and a couple other guys, and you had to feel like it coming into the season, you had to pay attention to them and figured they were going to be contending for that division. You know, the Steelers lost their big weapons, and I don't think any of us really thought Baltimore was going to be playing as well as they are. Am I right by saying that? I mean, Baltimore looks pretty good. They showed that Sunday night, but yeah, I think the Browns and you know that ESPN has this thing that they do called Overreaction Monday. I don't think it's an overreaction to think that this coach for Cleveland, Kitchens, got to be on the hot seat. It could have been a bad hire right off the top for him to be the top guy out there in Cleveland. Eddie, you live in that area. What are you hearing about that? Are the pitchforks out for Freddie Kitchens already? I mean,
they're not really calling for Kitchens' job just quite yet. They're not just. I don't know if they're still wrapped up in the madness of the hype train, but it's just like, you know, my girlfriend, you know, she was born and raised in the Cleveland area, and, you know, I'm trying to, hey, baby, you should be optimistic about the Browns. She's like, the Browns gonna be the Browns. She's like, sooner or later, you're going to learn the Browns are going to be the Browns. I'm like, nah, but y'all got Odell Beckham, and you got some pieces on defense. You got Jarvis Landry, and you got a young quarterback. And
yeah,
for the first time, the quarterback carousel stopped for the first time in 15, 16 years. And so you actually have a legitimate shot. And then she constantly reminds me, the Browns are going to be the Browns. And, you know,
well,
she just might be right.
Yeah, but I think it's at this point though, you're beyond that. You have a team that on paper looks pretty darn good, and on the field last year towards the end of the season looked pretty darn good. And if ever there was a game that they could have righted the ship, you would think going against Denver and a journeyman quarterback, whoever that was that played for Denver on Sunday, that's a game that you have to win that game, Cleveland. I think the leadership needs to be stronger. I mean, you see Baker, like you said, at the press conferences, and you hear the stuff about Odell starting to whine a little bit, and the shoes thing. That's just a stupid NFL thing. But
yeah,
doesn't your leader have to get a hold of this right now? I mean, Hugh Jackson was 2-5-1 and got fired, and Freddie Kitchens follows up. He's 2-6. So man, I know it's fast to pull the trigger on a firing, and I'm not saying Kitchens needs to go down right now in the middle of the season, but if it's still this much of a dumpster fire at the end of December, I think you have to immediately, if you're the Cleveland Brass, go and get you somebody else to be the head coach of this team, because there's a lot of personalities in there that need to blend together, but there's also a lot of talent there, and I don't know. I don't want to see Cleveland, after all this time, blow an opportunity. They finally have some talent collected on that team.
No, just like you said, Scotty D, there's a lot of talent there, man. But that leadership, that's where, like, it's just. Matter of fact, it was Rich Gannon yesterday when I was watching the game. He made a big deal, a big hubbub about the shoes. And then we saw last week where Odell Beckham gave Tom Brady his cleats that were made of like goat skin or some rich BS like that.
yeah.
And then, you know, then there was a meme floating around where Baker's looking at him like, "What in the hell are you doing? You're a little bit chummy with Tom Brady. Like, what is this? Like, what are you doing?" And so it's just a lot going on. It's just a lot going on, man. You got to corral some personalities in, and you might have to just like, look, this is how we gonna do it. You can get with it or get the hell on.
Well, here's something I must say. I have to give props and respect to the money man, Scotty D, because when it comes to having a whole bunch of talent on a team and a mediocre and subpar coach.
Oh, boy.
I'm an expert. You're right. I'm an expert.
I knew it.
You better believe if Jason Garrett was coaching the Browns, it'd be 4-4. He would lead them right to mediocrity.
A clapping 4-4.
Yeah.
Oh, well, 4-4 is better than 2-6. So
yeah, he would have clapped. Yeah, he would have led them right to 4-4.
Clapped them all the way to 4-4.
Absolutely.
Oh God, I'm sorry, Eddie. Cool, you a fool. He's like, oh boy.
I was about to take a sip of my water. I was like, let me put this down because I know where this is about to go.
Oh man, I missed you guys last week. All right.
Yeah, man. Glad to have you back, man.
Well, let me ask you guys this. coming out of Sunday night, do you feel like we are overreacting to a Patriots loss and saying, "Oh man, they're already starting to slide," or do you just say, "Hey, they're 8-1 and and teams lose"?
Some people, I know, like a lot of people, like, oh my God, because they really want the Patriots to go undefeated. They really want them to challenge for that Dolphins record. But from the looks of it, it ain't gonna be. It's not gonna be the Patriots. I just think that hey, look. In the words of one of my favorite professional wrestlers in Japan, Tetsuya Naito, tranquilo, calm down.
Yeah.
Because 8-1. If it was 1-8, okay, you'd be up in arms. But it's 8-1. They've only lost one game. They're going to win their division. 9 times out of 10, they'll get a first round bye. 8 times out of 10, they'll be in the damn AFC Championship again. And I'm almost certain that you just might see them in the Super Bowl one more time. So
yeah, I agree. I think that there's not a lot of resistance to the path to the Super Bowl in the AFC as far as the Patriots go.
Lies.
No, there's not a lot of resistance. I honestly do think that when Mahomes comes back, that the Chiefs are going to regroup and be tough to beat. The Chiefs were starting to go into a lull, I think, a little bit before Mahomes got hurt, but I just really think that team's going to I think they're going to get it back together. But other than that, I just don't see a lot of resistance to the Super Bowl for the Patriots in the AFC, even though they lost last night. And if they play Baltimore again in the playoffs, it's most likely going to be in Foxborough.
Yeah.
And if I'm betting my own money that I earn, I'm betting on the Patriots in that game.
All right. Well, I'm gonna say this. I'm gonna say this real quick because the Patriots are who we thought they were. Because this is what happens when you play nobody. Because this is the Patriots' 8-1 season. They've beaten the Steelers. They've beaten the Dolphins. They've beaten the Jets. The Bills. That was probably their toughest game so far. They beat the Redskins. They beat the Giants. They beat the Jets again. And they beat the Cleveland Browns. Out of all those teams I just named, only one of those teams has more than 2 wins.
And that'd be the Bills. The Buffalo Bills.
So they took care of business, is what you're saying. They beat the teams they're supposed to beat.
Well, if according to your argument, they didn't take care of business last night because they were supposed to beat the Ravens. On paper and everything else.
No, I didn't say that. They play a formidable Ravens team on their own and on their field, at their field, on a Sunday night primetime game, a team that's coming off of a bye. So of course they're going to have a slip up here and there.
I'm have a bold prediction right here. I'm gonna say something that's unprecedented. The Patriots are going to lose 3 of their next 4 games.
Ooh,
bet. I'll take that one.
They'll beat the Eagles. They'll lose to the Cowboys. They'll lose to the Texans, and they'll lose to the Chiefs.
Oh man, that's a lot of losses piling up there.
Yeah,
we'll see.
I honestly, the way that the Patriots looked, again, they haven't shown me anything because they've allowed that before last night's game, they allowed a total of less than 8 points a game. But you look back at who they played.
Okay, but all those teams they played,
a
lot of those teams are AFC teams. Who in the AFC is gonna overtake them? Who's gonna come back?
The Ravens, the Texans, and the Chiefs. I'm about to show you. That's who they play, and that's why I'm telling you. The Texans will beat them, and the Chiefs will beat them. I'm calling it right now.
Ladies and gentlemen, you heard it here first on the Sports Bros podcast. The Patriots will lose to who will be live? You said the Texans and who else?
They're going to lose to. I'm telling you, they're going to lose to the Cowboys. They're going to lose to the Texans, and they're going to lose to the Chiefs.
And that was B-Live's bold ass prediction.
That's a bold prediction. And next week the Patriots are on a bye, so B-Live will have time to change that prediction. And he'll amend it a little bit. He's been known to do from time to time.
And just like Scotty D was like, "Oh yeah, the Nationals will not win another game." Yeah, how bad was that prediction?
I was sticking to my
Oh,
prediction of Houston in 6. I didn't flip-flop. I predicted. I didn't pick Houston preseason and then pick the Nationals before the World Series, so I was going to be right either way, like some of us did on this show.
Hey, I just said Houston in 7. That's all I said. I said Houston in 7.
Every sports personality does that. They have a prediction at the beginning of the season, and then when things happen, you make a choice based off of what is happening in the now.
I understand. Like whenever you pick the Cowboys to win 12 games, and then Tuesday happened, and you changed your pick to have them go 9-7. I understand.
He woke up on the wrong side of the bed and was like 9-7, 8-8.
So what happens sometimes is the next day. I get it. I completely understand.
You know what? I'm about sick of you already. I make sound, logical choices and decisions once I gather more information. Yes, Tuesday happened with the Cowboys because that's sort of what the Cowboys do. Is that
they hadn't played a game yet.
Yeah, and they still couldn't get their whole roster together because their star running back was in Cabo.
All right, Eddie. Cool. B-Live's coming off of his bye week. He's got a lot of. He's very solid today. So let's get this thing moving.
That's the name of the episode. Be Live on the bye week.
Be Live had a bye week.
Hey Scott. Last week was Be Live's bye week.
Yeah.
Oh God bless America. Love you guys.
All right, that's it for the NFL. Wins, losses, draws, everything else. Or as my man would say, hemoglobins and haberdasheries. Anyway, moving right along to college football, week 10. All right, we're getting to that point of the season where things start to matter, and then some games are being played just to be played. Appalachian State. You're probably asking, Eddie Cool, why are you opening with Appalachian State? Because they lost to Georgia Southern. That's why I'm opening. Michigan rolls against Maryland as expected. Clemson defeat the Wofford Terriers 59-14. Georgia defeats Florida in the world's largest cocktail party 24-7. Oregon thumps University of Southern California 56-24. Memphis and SMU, they got a primetime game. That's pretty damn dope, but it didn't matter because it wound up being a good old-fashioned shootout, 54-48. Auburn gets back on track as they defeat Ole Miss 24-14. And Notre Dame defeats Virginia Tech 21-20. All right, fellas, coming up Tuesday today, since the show drops on Tuesday, coming up today will be the first college football playoff rankings. And, of course, we know this coming weekend, we got Alabama and LSU. Number 1 versus number 2. So, fellas, predictions of who's going to win the game versus number 1 and number 2. Scotty D, who you got?
I got to go with the home team. I have to admit, I wouldn't mind seeing LSU win that game, but anytime in the past that Nick Saban has had ample time to prepare for someone, that team has been prepared. Yep. So they got the week to get ready. They got a home game against LSU. Man, I hope we see us a good game next week. I really do, because I'm excited to see this number 1 versus number 2 mid-season like this. Man, it doesn't get any bigger than that. But until I see somebody knock Nick Saban off at home, especially with the extra time to get ready, I'm going to have to go with Bama next week.
All right, B-Live, who you got in 1 versus 2?
All right, well, of course, I am the perennial antagonist when it comes to whatever Scotty D says. I think he's crazy because, first of all,
oh boy,
Alabama won't win a single thing if they don't have Tua behind the helm, and he's a game time decision. I'm not seeing Tua playing in this game. I think the injury is a little more than what people want it to be. The fact that they're saying it's a game time decision. They're hoping and praying and wishing that he's available, but I severely doubt it because they want to keep the hype going. And I don't think Mac Jones will be able to do it. Joe Burrow is playing lights out right now, and this is the This is the revenge game of all revenge games because last year Alabama blanked LSU. Well, I was like 29-0. That's not happening this year. LSU has everything on the line. They're going to leave it all on that field. They've already beaten 2 top 10 teams. They want it. I think they're hungrier. I think they're faster. LSU's wide receiving core is the best in the nation. LSU will beat Alabama. And then sometime in the college football playoff, they'll lose to Clemson because we're just better. We are the real Death Valley. I'm sorry I had to throw that in there, but no, I'm going LSU. I think the mighty Alabama gets dethroned. LSU does what they're supposed to do. They'll face Georgia in the SEC championship. They'll beat Georgia, and then they'll go into the college football playoff ranked number 1 and undefeated. And as we know in history, no number 1 team has won the college football championship. So.
Wow.
Yeah, so that is my in-depth analysis of the game. I don't go on hopes and feels and wishes and dreams like the other guy over there.
Oh boy,
Wish and dreamed and hoped and feel. I'm telling you, Nick Saban, go look his record up after bye weeks and bowl games. That's what I'm basing it on.
Scotty D, you make a valid point about that bye week, man. That bye week is crucial, man, because that bye week, it could either make you or it could even break you. But with Tua banged up and like B-Live said, the injury is probably a little bit more than was led for us to believe. And you got Joe Burrow's playing lights out football, and LSU is looking real good. And I think I'm gonna have to lean towards them Tigers, man. I'm gonna have to lean towards them. I mean,
well, I don't think either of you are making a bad pick by saying that LSU can win that game, especially if Tua doesn't play. But I never heard of Tua at halftime of the national championship game when they played Georgia. This is a guy that I'd never heard of. All of a sudden, he's in the game. And he's the next superstar. So I'm not putting it past Saban to have win a game with a backup quarterback in a big game. I mean, I'm just not betting against Saban.
Hey, just like this, Saban has done more with less. Okay.
When?
Greg McElroy.
These are all 5 stars. These
Greg
Alabama
McElroy.
has had.
Ooh, he was a world beater. He was setting the world on fire.
Well, no.
Really?
Yeah, I'm just saying he doesn't necessarily always have to have a superstar under center to win. I mean, he's just that good of a coach, and he's proven it. So I'm just not betting against him at home. That's all. That's how I'm basing my prediction. Not betting against Saban at home.
Yeah, they like you said, they have plenty of time to prep that bye week, but LSU is just like, good God, those boys are just on fire.
So, I think LSU is more battle tested right now. Alabama, I think, honest to God, Alabama is where they're at right now by name only.
Ooh,
who have they beaten? Here's the thing. Everybody wants to make that same argument about Clemson, and I'm not arguing right now that Clemson's ranked number 4. But tell me who Alabama's played.
Little Sisters of the Poor.
I'm just, that's what I'm saying. That but no, that's what I'm saying.
They played Charlotte, they played Wofford, they played North Carolina, Georgia. Oh no, I'm sorry, I'm looking at the Clemson schedule.
But again,
hey, don't forget that. Hey, Scotty, don't forget that interconference, non-conference game.
That's right. They're not conference.
You're still not telling me anything because you're still not telling me who Alabama's played.
I told you who their coach is.
And how well did he get out coached last year in the championship game?
So we got smoked. I ain't gonna lie.
4 touchdowns.
All roads lead to Dabo, and he's not going against Dabo this week.
But I'm just saying. Here's the thing. You still that's my biggest argument against Alabama right now. They're literally number 2 in the country by name only.
Ooh-wee. Hot take.
They're name only. Like Ohio State's been playing better than Alabama.
Oh, they've been. Ohio State, they've.
And the only reason why Alabama is ranked ahead of Clemson is because Clemson had that close game against North Carolina. But Alabama should be number 3. Ohio State should be number 2 right now. I'm not even gonna lie to you. That's where I feel you really want to mess around with me. I think Alabama should be ranked less than Clemson, but that's just being biased. I'm being unbiased right now. I
So you
think
said
LSU.
So you said they should take Penn State spot and be number 5?
No. They're still undefeated. Penn State also has played nobody, so it's one of those things. I think Ohio State also has played nobody, but they've been more dominant in games than your Alabama, your Clemson, and your Penn State. LSU has already beaten 2 top 10 teams, or is it 3? Because it was it Alabama. They beat. No, I'm saying they beat. Who did they play? They played Texas.
They beat Texas.
Beat
They
Texas,
Florida,
beat Auburn, beat Florida.
And Florida State beat 3. They beat because Texas was top 10 when LSU played it. They've beaten 3 top 10 teams.
Yep.
That LSU is battle tested. They got this.
Yep. All right, I can't wait to see it though. I can't wait to see it. No matter who wins, I can't wait to see it. I'm looking forward to that game.
It's gonna be a good game. Looking at the top AP top 10 right fast, we got LSU number 1, Alabama number 2, Ohio State 3, Clemson 4, Penn State 5, Georgia at 6, Oregon at 7, Utah at 8, Oklahoma at number 9, and Florida at 10. And on the outside, looking at the top 10, we got Baylor at number 11 at 8-0. All right, guys. So today, as I stated, will be the first episode of the first release of the college football playoffs top 25. Of course, we only care about 1 through 4. And from the looks of it, like I said, we got LSU, Alabama, Ohio State, and Clemson. When it's all said and done, fellas, who's going to be the first 4 in and who's going to be left outside looking in? Who you got, Scotty D?
I don't think Alabama and LSU is an elimination game. I think they can both end up in there. Clemson is going to be in the top 4. I don't see them getting knocked off by anybody. I think they got NC State. Wake's okay, and South Carolina's okay. I just don't see them losing to those teams. So I think Clemson's going to survive. Ohio State's got a challenge off with Penn State, but that's at home, so I think Ohio State sticks around. So between those teams, that's going to leave you LSU, Alabama, and possibly Georgia. If they can, they're probably going to win their half of the SEC. They would have to win an SEC championship to get in. I think two teams from the SEC get in, whether it's Bama, LSU, and Georgia. I think it's going to be Bama and LSU. Both will stick around.
Gotcha. Be like, who you got?
I'm going to go outside of the box with this.
Uh-oh.
I agree with you, Scotty D. I agree with you that Clemson, basically, only person that beats Clemson is Clemson. Clemson's in. I put LSU in there. Like I said just before, LSU beats Alabama. LSU beats Georgia in the SEC championship. They're in. I put Ohio State in. I think Ohio State handles Penn State and Michigan, and they represent the Big Ten. The 4th team, they're going to do it. They're going to do it. I'm going to put Oregon in the playoff.
Oh.
I'm putting Oregon in the playoff because I feel like the voters right now, with Oregon being number 7 and Utah being number 8, they're actually putting the Pac-12 in a position where the Pac-12 championship, the Pac-12 winner, gets into the playoff. I think that they're positioning themselves because right now, the only teams that are ahead of Oregon right now in the ranking have to play each other. LSU, Alabama, Ohio State, Penn State, Georgia against the winner of LSU, Alabama in the SEC championship game. I think that just as those games progress, Oregon moves up. I think that a one-loss Pac-12 champion will end up that they want the Pac-12 in there because
I think they'd like to see Herbert in there too. So I wouldn't doubt if you're correct on this.
Yeah, makes sense.
So I know I make sense. That's what I do. All right, cool.
Oh boy.
Sorry, but no, that's my honest opinion because just the way that the rankings, the AP rankings are set up right now, it just looks that way. That is going to give the Pac-12 a chance to make it in finally because I think they've only made the playoff once, and I think that was Oregon. Oh, no. Washington made it one
It
year.
was Washington, yep.
Yeah, and Washington got smoked by Clemson.
Ooh,
But I'm saying smoked. But then, I mean, it happens. We ended up losing, whatever. But yeah, so this will be the playoffs been in existence 5 years, and the Pac-12 has made it twice. Yeah, it's a struggle.
Yeah, it's tough, man. I'm not gonna lie to you, man. I don't like you said. A lot of teams within the top 10 they play each other. So I wouldn't be surprised if Georgia sneak. I wouldn't be surprised if Oregon or Georgia sneaks in, and I'm just stuck at who the hell is going to be like, that odd man out.
Well, it's essentially what's going to happen for Georgia to make it in. They have to run the table. They have to win the SEC championship.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah,
and
run the table. So
what that would happen if Georgia won out the SEC championship? That would keep Oregon out, because there's no way you would keep a one-loss LSU SEC championship out of the playoff, or one-loss Alabama at that point. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That would be the lose-lose situation for a team like Oregon. But if LSU right now runs the table, Ohio State runs the table, Clemson runs the table, I think that eliminates those other one-loss Alabama that's not even in the championship. They did it before, but I honestly think this time if Oregon runs the table or even Utah runs the table, I think the way it's positioned, they want a Pac-12 team in there.
A lot to be decided in November, guys. It's going to be exciting.
And essentially, when our show comes out Tuesday, that initial ranking that's where it's going to solidify. Where are they putting the teams to start?
Yep.
So I mean, we shall see. It's going to be very interesting.
Yeah, that's going to be the most interesting part of this. Is that this the most wonderful time of the year, college football playoffs, and that's it for the college football wrap up.
And now, our favorite part of the show, the choices of the voices.
And once again, thank you to the lovely and wonderful Miss Button for telling you, the listeners, this is the choices of the voices. And this is the favorite part of the show. You heard the woman. This is our favorite part of the show. She ain't lying. She tell the truth. The choices of the voices. And Scotty D, I must say, you have done a wonderful job in selecting the question, especially this week's questions, because we got a lot of familiar names and new names as well, too. All right, Scotty D, could you please inform the listeners, the new listeners and the returning listeners, this week's question of the choices of the voices?
So the question I posed was, who is the best quarterback to wide receiver combo you've ever watched in the NFL history? A lot of combinations to choose from. This question different than just your typical who's the best. This is the best combination. So you're coming up with two players that work together to electrify the NFL, quarterback to wide receiver. So let's get into it. We had some really, really good answers, some interesting answers.
Yeah, we got a lot of great answers this week, and that's great. That's great, phenomenal. I had to go back and make sure I didn't want to miss out anybody, because I love, I want our listeners, but hey, I got something to say. But guess what? We're going to add it to the rundown, and we're going to make sure you are a part of the Sports Bros podcast, especially the section that's about the listeners, the choices of the voices. As Scotty D mentioned previously in the past, we don't respond to the questions that we see on our Facebook Live page. We wait till now, so that way it's more organic. But, okay, we can talk about this, we can talk about that. But in the words of the Almighty Be Live, I digress. All right, leading off, Uncle Max. He said Roger Staubach to Drew Pearson. That was a pretty darn good combo. Dallas Cowboys of the 70s.
Yeah, man, that was a different era. So Drew Pearson, not in the Hall of Fame, probably should be, but different era of throwing it around back in those days. But I'm not going to get an argument for me as far as the Cowboys go. Staubach and Drew Pearson were magnificent.
I got an affinity for Staubach, being a former Navy guy myself, so I didn't get a chance to see him play, but just hearing all the stories and what he was able to do, and I always got to give respect to our historian of the Sports Bros podcast, Uncle Max, because he lived in a different era than all of us. So
yeah, he's 120. So.
Oh God.
I didn't say that. See, Uncle Max, I didn't say that. See, he just wrong for that. I was going to give you at least a cool 85.
A cool 85. The hell is going on?
We love you, Uncle Max. I'll say.
All right, next up we got Mark Fim and his quarterback to wide receiver duo. This is a nice one. This is a good one. Marino to Clayton and Marino to Duper. Mark, super duper.
The Marx brothers lighting it up back in the 80s with Marino. That was like the beginning of the electric quarterback to wide receiver combinations.
Oh, yeah, man.
That was a good one, man. That was a good one. That one that year, those years where Marino just like was passing for like 5,000 yards a clip, like it wasn't nothing.
Oh yeah,
No,
both of those receivers were fantastic too, man. He really had some weapons back then.
Mm-hmm. What you about to say, Be Live?
I was agreeing with y'all essentially. I mean, just the West Coast aired out offense, and they had no running game whatsoever. I mean, this is amazing watching them do what they do.
Yeah, because I went back and saw the YouTube has a NFL throwback channel on there, and I watched like the career highlights of Dan Marino. Oh my God, I've always liked Dan Marino, but now I have a newfound respect for Dan Marino. I just wish the guy would have won at least one Super Bowl. You know what I'm saying? That'll be something that'll be hanging over his head for the rest of his life. But hey, you can't deny the talent that is Dan Marino. Brian Lavelle says Terry Bradshaw to Lynn Swan, or Bradshaw to Allworth. I'm sorry, Bradshaw to Stallworth.
Yeah, another one from the old school era. Hard to argue with Bradshaw to either of those guys. 4 Super Bowl rings.
Yep, that's exactly what I'll say. Kiss the rings. Yep. Yeah, you can't argue with that at all.
Mike McCrowski, he says Peyton Manning to Marvin Harrison.
Yeah, that could be the answer, actually. I mean, if you're going to say one of these has to be a correct answer, that could be it, because those guys connected. They might be the most prolific combo of all time, if I'm not mistaken.
I'll have to check the stat line real quick, but that's I'm not even gonna lie to you. Like, I'm spoiler alert. That's my answer. Like, like honestly. Like, before I even looked at the response to everything, I was like, somebody had to say Manning to Harrison, because they lit up the stat lines, and pretty much. Yeah,
that's pretty much. Okay, we have Sherry Sulo. She says Tom Brady to Julian Edelman. Can't really deny that one, especially when it comes to the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean. This is a case where I think Edelman just worked his way in and found that chemistry with Brady. I don't know that Edelman would be as prolific with another quarterback, or if it was just the chemistry there. But Tom Brady is the greatest quarterback of all time, so he's going to hit you. If you're on the team, that's a dream come true to play with him.
Yeah, it's crazy. I remember
the Brady to Antonio Brown not going to make this list.
No, unfortunately, sorry. I remember seeing a graphic of all of the receivers that Tom Brady threw touchdowns to. It is an extensive list. And it's crazy when you got Julian Edelman, Antonio Brown, and Randy Moss, and everybody else on that list he's thrown a touchdown to. Crazy. All right, coming up next, we got Martin Tracy. He said Doug Flutie to Eric Moles, and then he said Kurt Warner to Anquan Bolden.
Well,
where's the lie?
I mean, they're not bad combinations. I love thinking outside the box instead of everybody saying the same answers. Just because they're not among the top all-time combos doesn't mean that they didn't have a run of being exciting and successful.
That's true, because Kurt Warner, he went from slanging groceries to slanging pigskins and being a Hall of Famer, man. You can't deny. That's another you can't deny either, man. And Anquan Bolden, he was silent with his, but he got his work done, no doubt about that. Ooh-wee, Craig Burns gave us one that's fully loaded. So pretty much it's Brady to anybody. You pick them. Brady to Edelman, Brady the Gronk, Brady the Troy Brown, Deion Branch, Danny Amendola, Wes Welker, Jimmy the Bum down the street, the kid that bags groceries at the local supermarket, the server at your favorite restaurant, you name it, Mike Vrabel, me, Scotty D, the Almighty B Live, you name it. Yeah, that's the prolific all-time quarterback, the wide receiver combo. And then he picked Kenny the Snake Stabler to Fred Stickum Biletnikoff.
Oh, I like that old school answer. That's a good one, too.
All right, Mike Davis said, as one that was mentioned earlier, the Dan Marino, Mark Clayton, Mark Duper combination. So it seems to be a pretty popular one amongst the choices of the voices here.
Yes, sir.
Yep, like I said, man, this was Danny Boy would have won a doggone Super Bowl. All right, Scott Heinerman, he said the top two in the picture above, and he was referring to Joe Montana Rice and Jerry Rice. Yep. And then he said Peyton Manning and Marvin Harrison. He said, I'm thinking of ones that were together for a while, not just QBs who have been together for a year or so. He said maybe even Aikman and Irvin. He said, I threw that one in just for you, Scotty.
Appreciated it.
Yep, Aikman and Irvin, pretty prolific duo. Can't argue that. Nephew, Abraham Ortiz, he said, might not be the very best, but very underrated to him was Donovan McNabb and Terrell Owens.
Boo.
Coming from the Cowboys fan. But I think if it's very underrated, but I think it could have been 50,000 times better if they could just take their egos and just put them to the side, because they had a good thing going, man. They had a real good thing going. But
if T.O. could ever got along with anybody and stayed on a team,
yeah, that's the whole thing. That's the whole thing. If he just, kind of shoved that ego to his side, and he probably could have had a few Super Bowl rings. But ego comes through.
I say he can't even put his ego aside for the Hall of Fame. So I mean, really, He's like, come on. So, but that he made it though.
Yep.
Sort of asterisk, I guess.
Yep. Kind of, sort of, not really. But we digress. Clifton Lewis, he said, and I like this one. Dante Culpepper to Randy Moss. That Vikings team was fun. Look, that was fun to watch. That was fun to watch. Because you had the ability of Randy Moss and the cannon of Dante Culpepper.
That was more Moss. Culpepper was just chucking that thing up, letting Moss go get it, man. I thought even better than that was the Randall Cunningham to Moss and Carter. That year, those guys were, boy, they lit it up. Remember, Randall Cunningham made a comeback and went to Minnesota, and they went 15-1. Should have gone to the Super Bowl, but they screwed up a championship game. But man, that was electric. Randall Cunningham thrown to Moss for a couple of years there.
Yeah, that was another good one too. Bobby Adams, he said for the few seasons they were together, he would say Randy Moss and Tom Brady. Okay, I got it. Not that bad.
A trend going on. Randy Moss made a lot of people look great. Not necessarily Tom Brady, but then again, they broke all of those records. Tom Brady had never had a number one dynamic wide receiver before at that time, and so
that's really true.
Yep.
And they scored the 23 touchdowns together. They combined for 23 touchdowns, and that is still an NFL record.
And it was insane. I was like, the rich get richer when Randy Moss went to the Patriots. I was like, oh. But they did end up losing to the Giants. Thank you so very much. Because I think with them getting 6 Super Bowls and all the success that the Patriots have had, I don't think I could live with myself. And I can also speak for Cliff and Rodney as diehard Dolphin fans. If the Patriots would have went 19-0, I don't think none of us could have lived with that.
We never hit the end of it. Never, ever, ever hit the end of it. Just crown them. They all who we thought they were. Oh, boy.
Yeah, ain't nobody trying to hear that.
I'm trying all that mess, man. A friend to the show, JR, Junior, Scott calls him. He said Montana and Rice or Manning to Harrison.
Couple good ones. No argument there.
No arguments there. One that attracted some ire of myself and the Money Man, Scotty D, Paul Odom. And I like this one. He said, not even a fan of either one of them, but he said Matt Stafford to Megatron. by a lot.
Hey, you know what? If you, I think he explained didn't he say that he watched that more than he did some of these previous combinations?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, Megatron, I think Matt Stafford gets overlooked a lot of times because Detroit has been Detroit. But man, Stafford to Megatron, I don't fault anybody for picking that as a great combination, man. Calvin Johnson he was just a beast, man.
Yep.
You know, and Stafford's got a strong, lively arm. I think that's a nice call. I like that.
I'm still to this day trying to figure out what goes on in Detroit that ends such dynamic careers so short. I don't understand. Literally, I'm telling you, the best wide receiver and the best running back both played for Detroit, and their careers ended early.
Yeah.
Like, you give them 6, 7, 8 more years, like all of the other greats, they would have broken every single record.
Destroyed it.
Barry Sanders would have broken every single rushing record. Megatron would have broken every single receiving record. But they decided at the right age of, I think they both ended their career at 29.
Yep. Early.
Like, who does that?
Well, unless you're Calvin Johnson and Barry Sanders in Detroit, that'd be you.
And Andrew Luck.
Yeah, Jim Brown.
Yeah, Jim Brown. Oh, wow. That's something to think about. Patrick Willis. But, that's a different story. Yeah, man, I think if you and also the thing about Matt Stafford spent a good portion of his career hurt, shoulder issues and everything else. But I think, once he finally started getting together, that's when him and Megatron had that true connection. But then, things just fell apart, and it's sad, man. It's sad because we always look back. We always say to ourselves, we look at stories like Terrell Owens and Donovan McNabb and Stafford and Megatron. We always ask ourselves, what could have been? Right. We know what we saw, but what really could have been if there was like another 5, 6, 7 more years together? Yeah, man.
But if I'm not mistaken, doesn't Calvin Johnson have the single season receiving record
for most yards in single season? I think he does.
Yeah, didn't he come up just short of 2,000 that one year? I think, and Matthew Stafford was his quarterback, so I can't say that's a bad choice, honestly.
No, not at all. And like I said, that's my biggest argument. Is just they could have had many more years together, and that's probably the reason why this is actually one of the better answers.
Yeah, the more I think about it, I agree.
Because think about it, Matt Stafford is one of the handful of quarterbacks who passed for 5,000 yards. Just imagine the day. Oh man, I'm having a beeline moment here.
Imagine them today with the way they protect the quarterbacks and everything.
Oh, it's a wrap.
The aired out offenses that you see, they would lead the league right now.
Yeah, it's a wrap. It's a wrap. Javi from the Chucktown, he says Peyton Manning and Marvin Harrison. That's another good. That's another one that's hard to argue, man. That's another one
seems to be the leading one.
Yep, that's another one that is hard, very much so hard to argue. All good choices, fellas. All good choices. So shout out to Uncle Max, Mark, Brian, Mike, Sherry, Martin, Craig, who gave us 11,000 answers. Scott, Abraham, Clifton, Bobby, JR, Paul, and Javi for participating in this week's edition of the Choices of the Voices.
But Eddie, cool. We have two other people to thank here.
Okay, who are we thanking?
These two guys like to argue back and forth, and that's Pete Talansky and Trey Duke.
Where the hell is Terrible Pete? I knew somebody was missing. Where the hell has he been?
Trey Duke picked Romo to Dez. As a Romo lover, he doesn't mind being out of the closet as a Romo lover. And Pete actually, Pete's a Cowboy hater, and those two go back and forth all the time. And Pete actually picked Aikman to Irvin.
Mm-hmm.
He also said Montana and Young to Jerry Rice. Either of those were pretty good ones. But Trey likes Romo to Dez, and not that wasn't a good combination, but a lot of that was in a short period of time. And jump up and get it, Dez. And as a Cowboy fan, there was a lot to be desired with the rest of the team. That just didn't get it done. But
Yep.
It's just a matter of fact, though. Like, come on now. Romo to Dez as opposed to Aikman to Irvin. Come on, really? Come on.
Yeah.
Come on, Dizzle.
Yeah.
Come on, Trey Dizzle. Come on. You know better.
Yeah, you know better. All right, so Scotty D, did you already give your pick already? Did they spoil it for you, or you have something different? What you got?
Actually, I think I'm going to agree with a couple of the answers that gave Tom Brady to Randy Moss. I thought that was because I just think Randy Moss was just sick. He was very unmotivated in Oakland. I don't even remember who was throwing the ball to him out there. But, like we were talking about, he had Randall Cunningham and then Dante Culpepper were feeding him. And then he went to Oakland for 2 miserable years. And when he got to play with Brady, he was just the best, man. It really was electric. So I think that's my pick. I didn't see any Breeze to Marquez Colston on there, and that was one of the most prolific ones. I didn't see any Kurt Warner to Bruce or Holton.
Torrey Holton, yeah, wow.
There's a couple good ones there, but I just wanted to mention those because I thought those were so good. But I think Brady to Moss was awesome, and I'm not a Patriots fan at all, but Brady to Moss was super.
You gotta give respect to where respect is due. Yeah. Even though they cheated, and even though they cheated, and Epstein didn't kill himself. Oh, I'm sorry, did I?
Oh my goodness, we're well outside of the box on this episode. No more bye weeks for B-Line. You got too much time to jot notes down.
Oh man, wilding out. All right,
get us out of here, Eddie. Let's move this on.
Yeah. All right. I'm going to man on my after reading these, I would say one of the most electrifying pairings would have to be Randall Cunningham and Randy Moss. Man, just like you said, Scott, that year they damn near made it to the Super Bowl but choked against the Falcons. Man, that team was fun to watch.
It really was.
That team was fun to watch, man. Randall Cunningham, he was always an athletic quarterback. He was the prototypical mobile quarterback before mobile quarterbacks became the thing. And he also had a cannon. You couldn't underestimate that about Randall Cunningham, man. And it's sad that people really don't talk about Randall Cunningham as much as they should. At one point, he was my favorite player in the NFL. I used to love sitting there watching him like, oh, man, look at Randall. And he can get some things done. And he was just really like, hey, he would probably just tell Randy to huddle up. Just run a streak. I'm going to throw the ball up in the air. Is you ready?
Yeah.
And so he would just go. Who you got, B-Live?
Oh, it was a spoiler alert. I want to give a couple honorable mentions real quick, though, because Peyton Manning to Harrison was amazing, of course, but there was also another guy on that team as well that was just equally as good and Hall of Fame with Reggie Wayne.
Yep.
Didn't
skip a beat when Harrison moved on.
Right. So that was freaking amazing. But let me ask the question, because Scott, you said that the question was the most dynamic, electrifying quarterback wide receiver.
Best,
duo?
yeah.
The best.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So I won't say best, but I want to say electrifying. This is gonna sound crazy, but Mike Vick to Deshaun Jackson. That little short period of time, holy Jesus!
Yeah, when they played for the Eagles, yeah.
That's why I want to say electrifying, because good God, freaking Deshaun Jackson and Mike Vick was able to throw the ball 70 yards down the field and catch him in stride. It was like burning people left and right. So it was a little window right there, but electrifying. I just want to mention them as well.
Yep, you remember that one game where Mike Vick had the best game of his career when they played against Redskins on Monday night. And it was like, oh, he still got it.
And how about Jim Kelly to Andre Reed? Those Bills teams for losing Super Bowls get overlooked in a lot of great conversations, but that was a unbelievable combination, Kelly and Reed, for a few years there.
I like it. I like it.
I like it too. All right, Scotty D, what we got for next week's question?
All right, next week, the answers should vary a lot more because we're going to get personal with your favorite college football team. Who was the best NFL player from your favorite college football team.
So
that doesn't always – the best college player, it doesn't always translate. For instance, you could make an argument that the best Ohio State college football player ever was Archie Griffin because he won back-to-back Heismans. That didn't translate to the NFL. And you can argue like Joe Montana is the opposite. Joe Montana is not in the College Football Hall of Fame. So he wasn't necessarily the best Notre Dame. Well, actually, he could be an answer there. If you're a Notre Dame fan, then Joe Montana could be the best NFL player ever that came from your favorite school. So that's kind of what we're looking for is your favorite school and who went on to be the best NFL player from your favorite university.
All right, that's a good selection. We can't wait to hear the responses on that one. And that wraps up another edition of the Choices of the Voices.
All roads lead to Dabo.
Oh, boy, here we go. we had to sprinkle it in there. Had to get it in there. And speaking of getting in
Hunter Renfro could be a possibility for an answer next week, huh?
Hey, he caught the game winner on Sunday, so.
Yes, he did.
Who knows, man? Who knows? The Raiders said no AB, no problem. Watch this. Hold my Gatorade.
Love it.
All right, guys, move right along. We get ready to go home. They give me the go home cue. Pepper, you know how we do it. 3 topics, rapid fire style, and we try our best not to hit each other in the face with the ball. Or you could be like that lady who got a blender threw at her in McDonald's. But I digress. That was funny. I don't care. That was funny as hell. No. All right, I'm going to go first. My first pepper point goes out to Juju Smith-Schuster. I have a special spot in my heart for Juju Smith-Schuster because he helped me win my 2018 fantasy football championship, my first ever fantasy football championship. So I'm forever grateful to the one, the only, Juju Smith-Schuster. Sunday, he became the youngest player to 200 receptions at the tender age of 22 years old. That record was previously held by Brandon Cooks at the age of 23. So, Juju, keep on doing what you do. Over to you, Scotty D.
All right, I'm going to just kind of put a bow on baseball season here. Now the World Series is over. But do you guys realize how much travel time Joe Buck is logging these days, man? I mean, that dude was back and forth from Washington to Houston to Washington, and he made a couple stops on Thursday Night Football in between. Joe Buck gets a lot of criticism, but, man, I tell you, between Joe Buck and John Smoltz, they make the World Series for me. I mean, listening to those voices come on in the Fall Classic, it's just it gives you the big game feel. And John Smoltz was never my favorite player when he was playing baseball, but, man, is he good in the booth. So I just wanted to give a quick acknowledgement to Joe Buck and John Smoltz for a great World Series, actually a great postseason telecast. And I just wanted to tell you guys, I miss baseball already.
Oh boy, you got something to look forward to with your Pirates next year because from the looks of it, your organization's getting a whole new overhaul, much needed.
We'll probably win the World Series next year.
Hello.
Yeah. Wow. And that concludes this episode of the
Sports Bros Podcast.
Maybe I need a bye week.
You just might.
Man, no, it was again. Scott has not taken a bye week. He's actually been the only one that's been on every single episode. So a quick shout out to Scotty D.
The Iron Man.
Nice.
The Cal Ripken of sports podcasting.
Love it. All right. So, and John Smoltz is one of my favorite players of baseball. Fear to chop on, baby. Them Bravos, gotta love it.
Smoltzy.
Yes, sir. So, now, my pepper points are going to be a little skewed. It's going to be a little biased because your boy, the Almighty Be Life, just came back from an electrifying, amazing freaking football game in Charlotte. My beloved Keep Pounding Carolina Panthers doing what they do. I am making the pitch right now. I am making our own Sports Bros podcast pitch right now for Christian McCaffrey for MVP. The official hashtag is hashtag CMC for MVP. Spell out the word for FOR. CMC FOR MVP. Hands down, period, point blank. Right now, he has 1,244 yards for scrimmage, which is by far leading the pack in the NFL. He is on pace for 2,488 yards from scrimmage, which would be second in NFL history, only to Chris Johnson with the Tennessee Titans with 2,506 yards in 2009. And we all remember how great Chris Johnson was that year. That was freaking phenomenal. Christian McCaffrey is doing big things with the Panthers. MVP all day long. Yes, sir. Eddie Cool, here's the ball.
And I caught it with both hands. No gloves. OG style. Shout out to the Miami Dolphins for getting their first win of the season. And they won't be 0-16. That's all I got for my second pepper point. Hey, Cliff. Hey, Rodney. Your boys finally got one. Over to you, Scotty. Yes. Over to you, Scotty D.
All right. So this past weekend was a big fight weekend. A lot of criticism from DAZN. That's the pay-per-view network or the pay network that is airing a lot of boxing matches these days, and I'm glad to have it. But Canelo Alvarez moved up 2 weight classes to fight Alexei Kovalev. They delayed that fight for an hour and a half so that it wouldn't be going on the same time as the main event in the UFC, which was Nate Diaz and Jorge Masvidal. I thought the fight was very uninspired. Kovalev just peppered him with very weak jabs, just touched him, kept him at distance, and finally Canelo knocked him out in the 11th round to move up and become, I believe, his light heavyweight champion. But I didn't really, honestly, I think a lot of the boxing fans, boxing purists, were mad because they delayed that fight to accommodate UFC. Personally, I got an extra hour of sleep Saturday. I was glad I got to watch it, despite the fact that the UFC was on at the same time. But it just reminds me of why UFC at this point is a better product. Over to you, Be Live.
All right. See, and I didn't catch the ball with both hands. I caught it off my chest while I'm double fisting. Hey, a Budweiser, can I get a commercial too? Did y'all see that, by the way?
Yeah, the guy that got hit in the belly with the Bud Light.
Yeah, he had 2 tall boys, and a ball bounced off of his chest.
He took it like a champ.
Yeah, they made a commercial out of that and sent him to the other World Series games for free. Him to Houston. Jesus, all right.
I wouldn't drop it either. Hell, I just paid $40 for 2 beers.
Yeah,
hey, I'm just saying. But yeah, all right. Carolina Panthers. Thieves Avenue. That is the slogan for the Carolina Panthers secondary, which they are second in the league, first in the NFC with 12 interceptions. Not really talked about outside of the Panthers fan base, but they should be mentioned. They're second in the entire league with interceptions. They are not playing around. That defense is doing big things in Carolina. Gotta love it. Keep pounding. Eddie Cool, the ball.
All right, my third and final pepper point. I just want to take some time to just acknowledge the greatness that is before us. And what I mean by that is I'm talking about the 4th and the 6th all-time leading rushers who are still actively playing in the NFL. Frank Gore at 15,185 yards, 4th all-time, and Adrian Peterson, 13,809, 6th all-time. We should consider ourselves lucky and blessed to be able to watch Frank Gore and Adrian Peterson still play competitive football. Because I think with Sunday, Adrian Peterson had 108 yards on 16 carries.
I watched AP run on Sunday. He looked pretty good, man. Still some tread on that tire.
Yeah. He's a freak of nature, man. Think about it. This is the guy that came back from the ACL injury and just tore the league to shreds. You can say whatever you want about him, but the guy's a freak of nature. And Frank Gore, for a guy that spent most of his career known as Fragile Frank and could never get it done, hey, Frank stayed the course and kept it going. And we are lucky, blessed, all of that to still witness these guys still play, have jobs, and still play at a high and competitive level. Wow. Think about it. You see how quiet it is? Just think about it. Think about it.
Things that make you go,
Yeah, things that make you go, or things that make you go, damn. But anyways. All right, who am I throwing the ball to now? We get the ball. Is that it?
Scotty D.
All right, Scotty D, over to you.
All right, as I was mentioning a little bit ago, it was a big fight weekend, and the big fight in Madison Square Garden, Nate Diaz versus Jorge Masvidal, didn't quite go as planned. I hate watching fights get stopped by cuts. I've seen a lot of fights this year alone that more in boxing this year than UFC, but that cuts factor into the fight. I watched. I mentioned this to you before, Eddie, but I watched a little special on ESPN where they interviewed Nate Diaz in Madison Square Garden on Friday, and I could see that his cut from his previous fight against Anthony Pettis wasn't completely healed. So the cut got opened up. The doctor made a call, stopped the fight. Masvidal was already clearly winning this fight. Who knows what happens around 4 and 5? But I was disappointed that it didn't go further. After the fight, both guys, they were disappointed. They said they're going to run it back. I don't think that's going to happen. I think Masvidal has to move on, and he's going to get his chance to fight the winner of Kamaru Usman and Colby Covington for the welterweight title. And Nate Diaz, he's going to need some time to heal that up. And who's his next opponent going to be? Conor McGregor? We could see the trilogy. Over to you, B Live.
That would make sense. And yeah, I mean, it's such a tough call you got to try to prevent further injury when it comes to the UFC fight. So, I mean, it's such a tough call. There's a lot of scrutiny that goes behind it. But
I agree. I'm more disappointed.
You don't want to
see more, but I can't argue with protecting a fighter.
Right. So, I mean, trust me, as a spectator, yeah, we want to see blood, guts everywhere, but, it sucks. Anyway, that's not my point. Anyway, all about the Panthers. Keep pounding. God, it's been an amazing weekend for me. But yeah, the Carolina Panthers defense leads the league in sacks with 34 after 8 games. The next closest team is the Patriots. The Patriots have 32 sacks after 9 games. So the Panthers are leading the league with one less game in their belt. They're on pace to have 68 sacks, which is 4 less than the all-time record set by the 1984 Chicago Bears. You remember that defense?
Oh,
man. So that's one of those things where the Panthers they're doing some crazy things that people don't really notice. But guess what? That's my job as a diehard fan. My voice is gone because I've been screaming all freaking weekend. CMC, run CMC. And, that's the way I want to finish off this portion of pepper with a little extra spice on it.
Yes, and the best thing about it, we're not even sneezing. So how you love that. All right, that wraps up another episode of the Sports Bros podcast. Thank you as always for listening. But before we go, we gotta tell you how can you reach us? So Scotty D, where can the folks reach you?
You can come see me at Booyahs on Mondays at 6:00 in North Myrtle Beach. Trivia night on also a Wild Wing Cafe and Barefoot Landing, and on Wednesday nights at 6:46 p.m. And as always, come check out the Beast Ninja. I'm there all the time, every day pretty much. Beast Ninja Obstacle Course Training down on 501 in Myrtle Beach. And check me out on Facebook.
And also, Scotty D will be wearing that very same chicken outfit to Bowie's, to Beast Ninja, and to Wild Wings.
Look good. Chicken look good.
Eat more chicken. Not me. All right, Be Live. Where can eat more beef. Where can they reach you, Be Live?
Well, you can find me in Sango. Nope, my bad. It's been a minute. But check it out. You can find me, your boy, the Almighty Be Live. You can check me out here in Fayetteville at the best place for barbecue, wings, beer, sports, at Max Speed Shop at 482 North McPherson Church Road. I'm there all the time. I am your bar manager. Freaking got over 200 bottles and cans of beer, 50 tub beers on draft. But besides that, you can find me on the social scene on our Facebook like page at Sports Bros Podcast. You can find us on Instagram and Twitter. My Twitter handle is Sports Bros PCast, at Sports Bros PCast. On Instagram, Sports Bros Podcast. Try to keep up with that as much as I can. Check us out on YouTube, Sports Bros Podcast. Check me out every Wednesday. I know I've missed a couple Wednesdays, but I keep it grinding. Well, what happened? Wednesdays. Yeah, you know it. Got to keep the pause in there, man. But freaking love it. We're working on our WordPress site. We're working on many different things going on. But yeah, check your boy out. Yes, sir.
And as always, you can reach me, Eddie Cool, the HOC, on Facebook, on Instagram, on YouTube, on all the Sports Bros social media platforms. And you can reach me on my Facebook profile as well, too. Eddie Cool and Instagram, Supercool5000. I'm sorry. Snapchat, Supercool5000. All one word, cool season. Instagram, holler at a player when you see me in the street trick. Yeah. My bad. I got a little carried away, but yep, that's where you can find me. All right, fellas, got any closing words, any closing statements?
Happy birthday, Eddie Cool.
Hey, man, thank you. November 8th, that's my day. Also, I'm pretty sure you guys have noticed our brand new Sports Bros logo. We also want to give a shout out to Reese Jenkins for the artwork. Yeah, so shout out to Reese Jenkins for the dope artwork. Don't forget to hit him up on Facebook, Instagram, and wherever you can find him, because he's good at what he does. All right. And then in closing, do something nice for yourself. And if you can, do something nice for someone else as well, too. It's been another episode of the Sports Bros Podcast. And as always, thanks for listening.
Yes, sir.
There we go. Yes.
Cowboys. Go Cowboys.
Keep pounding. Oh, God. I know.